For the record, my name is Deborah Entenman, representative from the 47th Legislative District. I bring to you today consideration for House Bill 1267. We have seen that police violence and a lack of accountability for that violence has eroded the community trust in law enforcement. When entire communities do not trust those that the state has sanctioned with power over life and death, public safety is in peril. By creating a new independent agency to investigate police killings, we hope to begin to rebuild the trust in law enforcement and the community.
No one deserves the pain of a lost loved one that would still be here if things were handled correctly. We all know those who suffer mental illnesses were not meant to end up killed, but rather helped. We cannot rely on officers to investigate themselves anymore, or else we are bound to a repetitive cycle of abuse of power.
An officer's ability to use deadly force is not one to be taken lightly. This bill, ES-HB 1267, is a big step to better hold police and their ability accountable.
Creating this Office for Independent Investigation puts everyone on notice. You will be held accountable for the difficult decisions you have to make in our communities.
I support House Bill 1267 because it recognizes the difficulty and challenges of police investigating police, and it acknowledges that the public, the victim, and the families, and the police and prosecutors will all benefit by a credible, transparent, and unbiased process.
The IIT teams are still police investigating police and will always have inherent conflicts of interest. The current investigative process does not have impartiality. All police actions are rule justified. We must have impartiality to have accountability.
The reality is that Manuel Ellis's case had been closed by the alleged independent investigators in May of this past year. The family contacted me and several other social justice organizations saying that they wanted a second review. And within a week and a half, we had collected 3 videos that the alleged independent agency, which was Pierce County, a neighbor of the Tacoma Police Department, had failed to collect. We actually contacted 3 independent witnesses, and every single one indicated that Manuel Ellis had done nothing wrong. What we discovered was a video that said, "I can't breathe, sir," with remarkable responses from law enforcement. What we discovered required, in the end, the private agency or a semi-private agency of the state of Washington to actually investigate this particular incident. The reality is, if we left this simply to the local agency, we would be in a place where Manuel Ellis would be in a space where his folks would not know that his final words were, "I can't breathe, sir," and we wouldn't know that not only did he say, "I can't breathe," but he was actually hogtied on his stomach, hands to feet, as he said, "I can't breathe, sir." And as the state independent investigation discovered, that's when they put the spit mask, which is similar to a noose, over his head. The legitimacy of our system is absolutely in the balance. If we don't pass this, we fail.
Many of the community groups and civil rights groups that worked on this were also the groups that fought for 940. We've been tracking it ever since it went into effect, and so we know very clearly that it's not sufficient. And the governor knows. That's why they appointed this task force. And a recent study from the AG's office that looked at 18 independent investigations under 940 found that over 70% of them did not comply with the standards of 940s.
I'm wondering how you can obtain proficiency without direct law enforcement homicide investigation experience.
Your first part is one of the major provisions that we have great concern about over this bill, is the use of civilian investigators to conduct criminal investigations, and more specifically homicide investigations.
Simply wanted to raise a concern about the way the bill's drafted, that it is presumptive that law enforcement not be involved. I raise this because I think the ultimate goal is to put a system in place that allows for an officer who uses deadly force to be investigated and prosecuted if appropriate. As a prosecutor, I watch law enforcement who write reports that need to be improved, or who testify during an interview or an investigation. And each of these are learning, there's a learning curve that if you simply brought someone in as skilled and educated as they may be off the street into a complex homicide investigation, It would be simply asking someone who's never performed an open heart surgery to grab a scalpel and begin that process. We wouldn't want that.
And I want you all to hear, all of you, that the people that actually conducted this investigation that led to the state jumping in were private citizens that were dedicated to finding the witnesses and did. And the local agency, those homicide detectives and experts, never contacted those 3 witnesses, never got those videos, failed to get videos from 7-Eleven, failed to track down anybody that could have said anything other than the alleged narrative of the officers. And that's the absolute bias that impacts the legitimacy of our system. So if we don't move this forward and if we don't pass it, we're saying we don't care about Black lives, we don't care about Native lives, we don't care about poor people, we don't care about the legitimacy of our system, and we just allow full independent investigation to the rich. Because the truth is that those that are in poverty are those that often get killed by law enforcement.
There is no secret sauce to learning how to conduct a thorough and objective investigation. Indeed, it takes time and practice, although it has been the custom that people with law enforcement conduct these investigations. In fact, there is no reason they can't be well and competently investigated by civilians, and that is what it's going to take to gain the public's trust.
We wouldn't be here today if what was done in the past was sufficient. I want us to get out of the mindset of a sunk cost fallacy when people continue in these efforts that aren't working just because they put so much into them.
Police groups in Washington have opposed every reform, every idea, every opportunity to hold officers accountable for murder. And they've consistently taken a no compromise stance on anything that will hold them to a higher standard of conduct. As a result, and predictably, year after year, public trust in policing has plummeted and continues to plummet. If nothing changes, we'll only see more uprisings and things will only get worse.
You know, there's an incredible amount of bias within the current system, and that impedes our path to justice. This would bring us a closer, even an inch closer to justice and fairness on behalf of the people. Thank you.